the future of superhero movies is something that has been talked about a lot recently, especially with the feeling of fatigue and inconsistent box office results coming from the live action superhero movies. And it's on everyone's mind, like where does this genre go? And I think to answer this, we could like separate it into three sections: Marvel, DC, and then the others, the miscellaneous, if you will. Um, but if we're going to talk about Marvel, then I think we need to talk about the MCU first, specifically. The MCU, starting from like 2008, early 2010s, had a dominant run in the box office. I mean, it was just going crazy. It was, releasing so many movies in such short of a time period, and for the most part, a lot of people were enjoying them. And I think they really peaked in that 2018 to 2019 era. Um, and like when they released Endgame, it was praised. Everyone loved it. It became like the highest grossing movie at the box office, and ever since then, they've been seeming a little bit more aimless. Uh, they had like the occasional box office like absolute smash, absolute hit that everyone was like legit talking about again. Things like No Way Home, um, Deadpool and Wolverine. Another recent thing that they're having is Daredevil. But I think, a common thread between all three of these pictures and all three of these properties is that all of them do kind of rely on bringing back old things, and they do kind of rely on that nostalgia. And nostalgia can only go so far, especially because Marvel's other uh, properties that they've put out that haven't been as into that nostalgia and just been more like original works. They haven't seen the same success, and they seem to not really prioritize the storytelling as much right now. And it seems kind of directionless because we're almost a year out from the next Avengers movie, and we still don't know who the actual Avengers are, which is a very strange thing. But it leaves the future of Marvel being very, very unsure because uh, their movies that are doing well right now are the ones that are mainly, tapping into that nostalgia. But nostalgia can only go so far. So what are they going to do when they, when it just runs out? Um, so they really need to get their stuff together because uh, the movies they're putting out that, aren't nostalgia baiting, they're not doing too well. Another aspect of Marvel is Sony. Sony released the Venom movies, and that was by far their biggest success. Until, of course, they also released the Spider-Verse movies. And the Spider-Verse movies are something that really tapped into the cultural zeitgeist, I guess. And a lot of people really do enjoy them, and people do talk about those movies. So those are really successful. Um, but Sony has decided to actually, I guess for the time being, stop their Venom movies. With Venom 3, The Last Dance, seemingly being the final movie in the Venom trilogy, I suppose. And their other, Spider-Man related pictures have not seen the same amount of success. Movies like Morbius, Madam Web, Craven, these movies have all featured Spider-Man villains, but not actual Spider-Man in the movie, which, I'm not sure why they're just not able to use Spider-Man in their movies, but I think because of that, it really restricts them from having success with these pictures. And it seems like they're going to be stopping, after Craven was the most recent and Morbius was just the biggest meme ever. Uh, um, but yeah, it seems like their future is going to be in the animated movies for now, with movies like, Beyond the Spider-Verse. But the thing with Beyond the Spider-Verse is that it's being delayed a lot, for, writer's strike and, whatever issue comes up. The movie is being delayed, and it's caused, even Sony to seem a little bit unsure of themselves in the future. But I think they need to get their things together to release this movie quickly so they can, once again, feel a little bit better about themselves. DC for the longest time was just catching up to Marvel. For a lot of the 2010s, it was just mainly playing catch up, and it, you know, finally seemed to get some really big success when they started doing their own things, and instead of like copying what Marvel was doing, they started blazing their own trail. Um, you know, one thing was, the Zack Snyder's, re-release of the Justice League, the Snyder Cut. Of course, that, was amazing. But they also released movies like The Joker and The Batman in 2022, which were, different from what Marvel was doing, and they really did focus more on story. And those movies, I think they really did well, and I think they were really good signs. But unfortunately, DC, they seem to kind of fumble their Joker because Joker 2 did not do well. It actually bombed harder than Morbius, which is crazy. Um, and yeah, DC does also animate pictures, but they don't seem to get as much attention as mainstream movies like the Spider-Verse movies, which is unfortunate because I really do enjoy their animated pictures and the animated shows as well. But yes, James Gunn did put out a little video, basically detailing the roadmap and kind of outlining what that would look like for DC for the next 10, 15 years. And I think that was a really good thing that they did because it gives more communication. I think is better in terms of these movies. And he outlined a very clear plan, and I think DC's Superman movie, which is going to release in May of this year, is going to be something really to look out for. I think people are going to really want to look at that, and I think its performance is probably going to be indicative of the rest of the DCU's performance, as they're calling it, um, for the next several years. So I think it's really on them to make a good performance, and I think I have a lot of faith in them because James Gunn, he's just so consistent with his movies. I mean, the Suicide Squad, all the Guardians movies, even his movies that were before he made Guardians, he's just a really consistent director. And I think he really is able to get his vision across to the audience while also making the characters very interesting and making the relationships between the characters very heartfelt. And I think because of that, he just he prioritizes story, and because of that, there are results. So I think DC is probably looking the best out of all the companies right now. And that brings me to the next section, which is the others. Shows like the Invincible and The Boys offered refreshing ideas into the mainstream superhero genre because they did like unique twists and spins with their depictions of certain archetypes of characters. And I think for a while, I think that was really good, and I think people enjoyed it. But I think that can only go so far, and I think their more cynical takes on superheroes will only go so far. So I think that cynicism is probably going to be balanced out by this next Superman movie, which looks like it's going to be more optimistic than Man of Steel, which came out in 2013, which had a little bit of a darker take on Superman. I think this Superman movie that's about to come out is going to have more of an optimistic tone. And I think that is going to kind of balance out things like The Boys, which is going to wind down into its fifth season.